Betrayal doesn't just hurt because someone turned their back on us. It hurts because it catches us off guard, because it shatters the trust we took so long to build, because it makes us feel foolish for having believed in someone. And then comes the impulse to prove something, to respond, to strike back, to show we're not to be messed with. When someone lies about you, when they twist the truth, spread rumors, or stab you in the back, the instinct screams, "You're not going to just let this slide, are you?" That's when the mental speeches begin. I should expose this person. They need to learn a lesson. I'll just react this one time. But here's the question the Stoics would ask. Does striking back free you, or just keep the poison alive? Because the moment you respond on their level, you enter their game. You abandon your path to walk into their arena. You lose your center, just to throw them off theirs. And often you realize too late that the person who ends up hurt the most is you. Anger feels justified at first, but if you feed it, it becomes a prison. It locks you inside mental battles. It turns you into the very thing you were fighting against. And the name for that is a wounded ego. The Stoic understands that betrayal, lies, and offenses are part of life. But reacting on impulse means being defeated twice. Once by the other person, and once by yourself. That's why they chose a different path. Harder, quieter, and infinitely more powerful. Stoicism wasn't born in libraries, it was born from pain. Zeno of Citium, the founder, lost everything in a shipwreck. He arrived in Athens with empty hands and a heart full of questions. He saw that the world was unstable, unjust, and unpredictable, and set out to learn how to live well regardless. Over time, his philosophy was shaped by people who saw the worst in humanity, and still refused to let it shape them. Epictetus, for example, was born into slavery. He was beaten, humiliated. His master once broke his leg, and he didn't scream. Not out of weakness, but because he knew, they can control my body, but my mind is mine. Seneca lived surrounded by conspiracy and betrayal in Nero's court. He saw friends executed. He knew power was fickle. One whisper could cost him his life. Still, he wrote about serenity, about living well, even in the shadow of death. And Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, faced war, plagues, the death of his children, and betrayal within his palace. Instead of ruling with hatred, he wrote, "If someone does me harm, that's their problem. How I respond is my responsibility." These men proved that it's possible to face the worst without losing the best of yourself. Stoicism didn't protect them from injustice. It protected them from becoming unjust. When someone hurts you, instinct wants you to react. But a Stoic doesn't act from instinct, they act from virtue. They believe that 4 virtues hold up a life that remains firm in the face of pain. 4 pillars that may not stop the blow, but keep it from breaking you inside. Wisdom. It's the eye that sees beyond the surface. When someone betrays or attacks you, wisdom asks, "Why does this hurt so much? Am I seeing reality, or just my broken expectation?" It reminds you that not everything that hurts is true. Often what wounds us isn't what happened. It's what we hoped would happen. Courage. But not the courage to retaliate. It's the courage to stand tall without stooping to their level. To endure injustice without becoming unjust. It's much easier to lash out than to hold your ground. Stoic courage is bearing pain without becoming bitter. Justice. When we're hurt, we want to hurt back. But the Stoic remembers, doing harm in response to harm doubles the defeat. Justice is treating others better than they treated you. Not because they deserve it, but because you deserve to keep your integrity. Temperance. The art of not being a slave to impulse. Temperance holds back the sharp reply. It makes you count to 10 before reacting. It doesn't erase your emotions, it centers them. It reins in your pride. It's the calm that stops you from saying something you can't take back. These 4 virtues don't erase pain, but they stop pain from turning you into someone you're not. They are the Stoic's invisible shield. And when trained well, they turn every insult into greater inner strength. Betrayal hurts. The lie, the broken trust, the quiet betrayal from someone you didn't expect. It all stings. But there's something even more painful. Trying to control what was never yours to control. Epictetus, who was born into slavery, taught a simple, powerful idea. Some things are up to us, others are not. That's the dichotomy of control. You can't control what others say about you. You can't stop someone from lying, pretending, or stabbing you in the back. But you can, and must, choose what you'll do with it. You can choose not to become the hurt you received. You can choose to respond with presence, not impulse. You can choose who you become in the face of injustice. And that choice changes everything. Because when you realize you don't control the behavior of others, You stop wasting energy trying to convince, confront, or get revenge, and start investing that energy where it matters: your peace. This doesn't mean staying silent out of fear. It means speaking with intention. It doesn't mean ignoring the pain. It means refusing to let it run your life. Betrayal is the responsibility of the one who betrays. The offense is a burden carried by the one who committed it. But how you choose to respond, that's where your freedom lives. The Stoic doesn't seek revenge. He regains direction. He turns inward. He decides, every single day, not to live as a hostage to someone who's already chosen the path of lies. And that decision, that quiet commitment, is what keeps him invincible even when everything feels lost. The first reaction to betrayal is usually, why did this happen to me? But the Stoics asked a different question. How can this make me stronger? They called it Amor Fati, to love one's fate. Not to accept it passively, but to embrace it consciously, as someone who understands that every blow along the way is also shaping the warrior. Marcus Aurelius lived this at the highest level. One of the generals he trusted most, Avidius Cassius, betrayed him, declared himself emperor behind Marcus' back. A public, political, and deeply personal betrayal. Marcus could have responded with fury. He could have ordered the execution of Cassius' entire family, as was common in Rome. But he did the opposite. He wrote in his journal, "Forgive." Betrayal says more about the one who betrays than about the one betrayed. He didn't turn pain into vengeance. He turned it into clarity. He used the crisis as a tool to sharpen his character. Because deep down he understood. Betrayal isn't a detour in the journey, it is the journey. Amor Fati doesn't mean enjoying the pain. It means using pain as a tool. It means looking at disappointment and saying, "You came to test me, but you will not corrupt me." This philosophy doesn't shield you from falling, but it teaches you how to get back up, stronger. And even more than that, it teaches you to be grateful for the blow, not because it was fair, but because you chose to grow from it. Most of the battles we fight internally, no one sees. You may be smiling on the outside while silently processing a betrayal. You keep going with your routine, carrying the weight of an unspoken lie. Sleeping beside the ache, hoping to wake up lighter. That's why the Stoics practiced what they called silent weapons. Subtle but deep habits that kept them grounded, even when everything around them was falling apart. The first is Stoic journaling. Marcus Aurelius wrote every night, not for others but for himself. He processed his pain, sorted his thoughts, and redefined his emotions on paper. You can do the same. Ask yourself, what hurt me today? Does this pain speak more about me or about them? What do I want to do with this, repeat it or rise above it? Writing is how you slowly extract the poison. And in doing so, you reclaim the narrative of your own story. The second practice is negative visualization. Epictetus advised imagining each morning that you may be betrayed, insulted, or criticized. Not to become paranoid, but to avoid being surprised. When the worst no longer surprises you, it finds you prepared. And the third, perhaps the most powerful, is Memento Mori. Remember you will die. Not as something dark, but as something liberating. Because when you see life as short, you become more intentional with where you place your energy. And most of the time you'll realize, resentment is a tragic waste of your precious time. These practices don't need a stage, but they build an inner fortress, where betrayal doesn't become a prison, and where pain becomes discipline. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, was betrayed by someone he trusted deeply, Avidius Cassius. The general tried to take his throne in secret, and Marcus' response? He refused revenge. He asked that if Cassius were captured, he be spared, and more than that his family not be punished. He wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like those who harmed you." He didn't want blood, he wanted to remain whole. Epictetus, born into slavery, endured physical and moral humiliation. He was insulted, ignored, treated like a thing. But he never let that define who he was. He said, "You can break my body, but my mind will remain free." Instead of retaliating, he taught. Instead of complaining, he shaped others. He became a teacher of free men, even of future emperors. That kind of strength still lives on today. Nelson Mandela, after 27 years in prison, emerged with the world expecting revenge. But he chose reconciliation. He chose to heal a nation, not divide it further. Not because he didn't feel anger, but because he didn't let that anger drive his story. Serena Williams, attacked by the media and doubted from the start of her career, responded with titles, with consistency, with grace. Every criticism was met with discipline, not with scandal. Psychologists, teachers, and everyday leaders live this too. Ordinary people who, when betrayed or treated unfairly, choose the harder path. Not to stoop low, not to take revenge, not to lose themselves. These examples show what Stoicism teaches in practice. To master your impulses is nobler than to conquer your enemy. Retaliation feels fair, feels necessary, feels strong. But often, it's just a hungry ego disguised as justice. Betrayal hurts. The lies people invent, the passive-aggressive comments, the subtle insults. And the ego screams, "Show you're not weak. Respond. Make them pay." But the truth is, revenge is expensive. And more often than not, the one who pays the most is you. Because in trying to get even, you enter their territory. You speak the way they speak, act the way they act, become someone you're not or never wanted to be. And by the time you realize it, you're already consumed. You've spent your energy, lost sleep, said things you regret, done things that don't align with your values. The Stoic knew this. He knew that trading peace for a final word isn't victory, it's disguised defeat. He knew the real danger isn't what the other person does, but what you allow yourself to become afterward. Epictetus said, "If someone offends you, that's their problem. But if you become offensive too, now it's your problem." Revenge is not justice. It's pain continued by other means. And when you strike back, you might win the argument, but you risk losing yourself in the process. The greatest victory is the one no one sees. It's when you feel the pain and choose not to spread it. When you could yell, but choose the silence that protects your peace. When you could wound, but choose to walk forward whole. That's the Stoic's victory. The one that happens on the inside. Without applause, without an audience, but with freedom. Because nothing is more powerful than being untouchable from within. Not out of coldness, but out of clarity. If you want to overcome betrayal, lies, and insults, start by overcoming the impulse to lose yourself because of them. And practice every day the rarest art of all. Staying whole in a world that tries to tear you apart.